purpose of this video is to give an overview of how we would wire a PTZ pan tilt zoom camera and wire it to a DVR to allow us to both access the pictures from the camera and also to be able to remotely control it so we can zoom into particular areas directly from the DVR. So let's just look first of all at the back of the DVR and see what inputs, outputs are affected here. Basically there's going to be 3 cables here. So the picture coming from the PTZ camera will have to be connected into one of these B and C inputs along here, okay? So any one of them will do. In terms of the actual control of the motion of the camera, this RS485 here, we can see here that we'll be using input A and B. So basically A is positive and B is negative. So the orange cable will go in here and the other cable will simply insert into input B. And finally then, we need to power this camera here. So there's a power unit that came with that camera and we'll need to power that camera from this power unit here. And you can see that it terminates in a 2.1mm DC jack. So if we look at the far end here, in terms of the camera itself, we have 3 inputs on the camera. We have a power input, a 2.1mm socket. We have a B and C connector here for the picture, and once again we have an input here for the PTZ control, and it's marked plus and minus. So what's the best cable to use for this? Well, to connect all of these things together. Now you have to remember, in this setup here, we obviously have the power unit and the DVR quite close to where the camera is, but in reality this camera could often be maybe 50 or 100 meters away from the DVR. So what I find best to use is something like a Cat5 cable, and what I'm after doing here is I've just cut about a 5 meter length of Cat5 cable. So to explain the actual breakdown of the Cat5 cable, it's made up of 4 twisted pairs, okay? So in this case, because we have a total of 3 cables that we need to run, we're only going to use 3 of the twisted pairs, and one of the twisted pairs, for instance this blue one here, is not being used, okay? That pair is not currently in use. So what I've done here is I've labelled this up on both ends. So what I'm going to do here is, hopefully in the interest of clarity, I'm just going to start off on the DVR end and say, right, this is the DVR end here, and what are the 3 pairs we're using? Well, one pair is being used for power. So this is what's going to connect to the power unit that we see over here. And basically what I did is I took the Cat5 cable and I connected on this 2.1mm DC socket. So if you see on the front side, it's the socket, and on the back there's inputs here for Cat5 cables. So I just put one connector here and another connector on the other side, okay? As long as we keep the methodology same on both ends, it's fine to connect them either ways. If we come along here then, and we see the B and C connection, and I've just marked it picture, because this is what's going to actually take the picture out. And then finally, there's the PTZ connection here. So this is what connects into the RS485 here. So this is what I'm going to start off by connecting initially, okay? So I'm going to grab the orange cable and put it into input A, simply because that's orange is the positive cable. And I'm just inserting it in here, and it's locked into position. And I'm just going to repeat the process. So just with my finger here, or I can just show actually maybe slightly better with the screwdriver. I just depress this, push the cable all the way back in and release, and now both of these connections are quite tightly. So you don't really need a tool for this, okay? I'll just grab the B and C connection. You can get B and C connectors with or without these tails, certainly for this part of the process, because you can often be working with a whole series of B and C connections side by side. I find this type of tailed one quite handy, and I just rotate it here. So now we have 2 of the connections connected up. And then the final thing here is to grab the actual power and feed it across. I'm not going to connect that quite at this point, I'm just going to show in a minute why, okay? But we'll connect this in a moment. So this is the DVR element of it, fully wired up. Next we need to go and terminate, or connect the far end of the Cat5 cable where it terminates here into the actual PTZ camera. So let's just go through the steps here again. The first thing here is I'm just going to grab the power, which we can see marked here, and connect it to the power. So you can see it's the brown and white cable, same as the far end, is being used for the power. For the picture, it's the green and white cable has been used again, so we'll just quickly connect these again. So once again, it's just a straightforward B and C connector that we sell on the website that we've used here. And then the final thing is to actually come along and actually wire up this. So the thing to notice here is, on this connection here, we have a plus and a minus, okay? So the orange again is plus. So what I'll simply do is I come around, I insert it in here, and I just use a screwdriver then. So it's just a fine screwdriver here to connect it in. And I repeat the same process for the next cable. This is a little bit tricky now. Should have probably connected this first. But anyway, I can just insert it there like this. And I have locked that into position there. So all three are connected here. So we have the power, we have the picture, and we also have the PTZ control all wired in. So what I can do at this point is I'll just add the power on. And when I do, we'll actually see the PTZ camera, which I'm just going to pull slightly into focus here. Just turning on and rotating down. So that's it. So the important thing to note is that the PTZ wiring here, this is purely for control. This PTZ camera will rotate and turn just purely from the power unit. The PTZ wiring here from the RS485, it's purely giving us control of the camera in terms of, if I had the DVR connected to a monitor now, I could make decisions about tilting, zooming, and etc. on the camera. So that's it anyway. A pretty straightforward, hopefully, overview of how we would wire a PTZ camera into a DVR.